Good afternoon, everybody. This is the June 14th meeting of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Will all please rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Keefe is absent. Councilor Novoselsky? Here. Councilor Sereno?
Here.
Here. Council President Visconti?
Here.
Here. And Chairman Rizzo?
Here.
Here. A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge Councilor Cogliandro and Councilor Silvestri. They have been here for each of our Budget, Ways and Means Committee meetings, and we appreciate that. So thank you for being in attendance. So first up, pretty much as we do every year, the department heads are here, generally speaking, representing their departments and discussing their budget. We have, as we have the last couple of days, we have some accomplishments and some goals that have been included in our packages with the budget. What we've been asking department heads to do is not necessarily read verbatim through each and every line item, but just kind of, if you can, kind of generalize a little bit about, some of the major highlights that you might have done over the last fiscal year and what your goals are going forward. And then we can just go right into the numbers. And after that, we're asking city councilors that may have questions to bring them up at that point, and so pretty straightforward. So first up, I see Nick Rystrom here. He's the city engineer, director of engineering, and Nick, if you wouldn't mind get right into it, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, I'm
Chairman.
sorry. For the edification of the council, we are on page, section 2, page 53.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow councilors. So probably the biggest thing which engineering department has been involved with over the last year and probably over the last 9 to 10 years is working to comply with the federal consent decree that we have in effect, which is related to sanitary overflows. We've been able to rehab a large portion of the city's collection system. We're presently just at about 89 to 90% of the system that's in the ground being rehabilitated. We do have some ways to go, but we've been able to achieve that and then also work towards modifying the consent decree in a way that's more palatable for the city. Some of the other things also over the last year that are included are water and stormwater improvements. You'll see there is a water project that's underway now in the Ellerton Arcadia neighborhood, also the Bay Road neighborhood, and that also will extend into Ambrose and some other streets as well. And then also as far you'll see some other stormwater improvements that we've been working on, some that are in design now related to Sherman Street and some of the drainage issues over at Griswold Park, and then also some others that we've been working on Fennel Street, some over at Walnut Ave, in various places throughout the city. Orvis Road, you may be familiar with. You might be aware that there is some parts of the city that don't have drainage, and so we try to take a look at where we can improve stormwater conveyance, improve those neighborhoods. Now, in addition to that, some of the more mundane things that we've been doing over the last year is cataloging records, correcting discrepancies with addresses. You'll see a list there of things like that we do just in the office in general. But most of it, again, is infrastructure related. We work very closely with water and sewer, the guys in the field, and then also the DPW with a lot of the jobs that are going on related to infrastructure. And then the last thing I would say is just reviewing for technical compliance, any of the developments that are happening in the city, the smaller developments, the bigger developments, the Suffolk Downs, the Amazons, those types. So we have, a lot going on. It's never a dull moment down in my office. But that's where we are, and that's what we've, been working on for the last, like I said, fiscal year, but, beyond.
Sure. Any changes in your budget that would stand out to you?
I don't think so. There was some that was moved. I don't have a telephone allowance anymore. They centralized that, so that's not part of it anymore. But no, most of it, I don't think there's anything really different from where we were a year ago.
There's actually one change, and I apologize because it's a typo on page 54, but we don't pay our principal clerks $107,000. That is Michael Ketchman, who we've moved from DPW to engineering under Nick Reisman. So it's new to this budget, but it's a one-for-one swap, so.
So it's just, I was just going to mention, for FY '22 was $369,000, this year it's $486,000, but that's just a transfer of an employee, correct?
Yeah, so you'll see the decrease in the DPW budget, but that is also labeled principal clerk, but that is, that's Michael Ketchman, the engineer, so that 107, I'll get an updated version of this and distribute it to the council.
Okay, sure. Okay. Thank you for that presentation, Nick. Appreciate it. Any city councilors have any question for Nick Reistrom? Council President Visconti.
Thanks. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you.
I guess the biggest question I have, two questions actually. Looks like contracted services. We budgeted roughly about last year, in 2022, about $113,000. And you've spent roughly about $18,000 up to Q3. So what actually is that? And the reason, just help me understand the reason behind keeping that the same, or are you expecting something different?
No, it's the same essentially the same as the last fiscal year. I think the biggest one that's there is the 70, which is for the outfall sampling and the MS4 compliance. So that's something that is a requirement for us every year.
Okay.
And so comes out of our contracted services. I think that's the biggest piece. The other one that's there that's also sort of in line with that is the educational collaborative that we participated in. Again, that's also something that we utilize to stay in compliance with the MS4 permit, which is the EPA's stormwater discharge regulations. And then it's the same amount as it was last fiscal year, which is the additional 40, which we utilize for some of the smaller projects that we have for survey and sometimes small design. A lot of the stormwater work that we do, the smaller catchment corrections or improvements, we utilize those funds to do survey and whatnot so that we can design off of that. But it should be the same.
Yeah.
I think that the reason you see it not used up to Q3 is because that 70 always ends up being executed earlier in the year, late in the fiscal year, but early in the calendar year, because it's a calendar year compliance.
Then that answers.
Yeah, that PO has been pulled for $70,000, so that's a PO that was pulled after the production of this budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know I see this. I still see the staff engineer still vacant, and I know that was in last year's budget, and we put that aside last year, and I guess you're having no luck finding a staff, an engineer.
We're having some difficulty. I think it's an industry-wide problem. We've had a few promising interviews that didn't work out, but we also have had some that were just not a fit at all. So I still, I'm hopeful that we will be able to fill it fairly soon. The HR department, I've been working very closely with them, recently to try to, up the visibility and whatnot. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to fill that within the first quarter of the new fiscal year.
Do you think, I hate to say this, but is it the salary amount that's one of the
So I think
restraints? Not that I want to push on.
it could be.
Is
it could be.
that one of the major issues?
I think that in some cases, the private sector is doing pretty well, and so
Yeah.
it's hard to compete and get quality people. So, you kind of get what you pay for. So I think, in some cases, that is part of the problem.
Thank you. Thanks for everything you do. I appreciate it. If you wish.
Yeah, so Don Charnell, Chief Instructor in Engineering for the City of Revere. So we had recently interviewed somebody as early as last week. Prior to that, we had interviewed close to 7 candidates for that position. We are getting a little bit more visibility. We are getting more applicants. But we're looking for, we are competing in a very competitive market for staff engineers. And we also looking for somebody that is a little unique, because the person that we're looking for has to have CAD capability to be able to work with computer-aided design. Also, some ability to be able to have some understanding of hydraulics, water systems, stormwater systems, street and paving, so that we can do some of our in-house work. So it's kind of an experienced person, so maybe that salary isn't really, for somebody with a little bit more experience, but I think we are hopeful. We're getting a lot of candidates. So it's just a matter of, I think we have 5 more lined up for interviews coming up very soon.
Great.
So we are definitely getting more response. I don't know why, but we are. So.
Thank you very much for that, Don.
Thank you.
You all set?
All set.
Any other counselors wishing to be heard? I'll just, I guess just a couple of comments. I personally, and I think it's especially when you start talking about maybe somebody just starting out, or you might not get the most experienced engineer out there, but, it's an $86,000 salary plus benefits, plus you're in a defined benefit plan, with the municipality. So I don't necessarily think it's all that bad. I think it's a great opportunity for somebody who might just be starting out but has a good background. I don't know. But all that being said, I'm just, and this really, it's semantics, but how come you moved Michael Kessman he was in community development, wasn't he, Michael? Where did he move from? Which department into engineering did he come from?
I think when I originally started, he was in community development, and we had moved him into DPW, but...
Oh, so he went to the DPW before here?
Yes, and now he's in engineering, so, we're trying to...
Is he gonna wind up in the clerk's office someday, or is he
I'm not
just
sure
gonna-
about, I'm not sure about the clerk's office. I'm hoping we found a permanent home for him.
Maybe the auditor's office?
But, no, but...
I mean, he's a great guy.
Yeah, it's no reflection on him or what he does. It's just, I think, personally, I think engineering was probably the original place that he should have been in the first place, and he may even been in that department before that, before my time, but we always try to place the employees in what we think is the most proper budget. So, yeah, he's been
Okay.
moved around a little bit, but I think it's just trying to find the right correlation of what he does and his skills to the particular department.
Utility player, yes.
Yeah, it's like Brock Holt.
All right, we'll put him up for the 10th player award. Yeah. Nick, I don't see anybody else that has any questions here. So if not, appreciate it. I know just the consent decree alone, if you just had to deal with that, is enough, let alone all the other work that goes into it. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate that, thank you.
All right, Nick. Appreciate it. So moving right along, we'll move into Public Works now. And I see both Paul Argenzio and Donnie here, so we're going to go right into administration. Paul, welcome. Page 78, Section 2, page 78.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, and the councilors. Before we start, I'd like to say a couple of things. I first want to thank Mayor Arrigo and the City Council for funding the reconstruction of the new city yard. After several delays, we've finally gotten off the ground. The site has been turned over to the contractor. They're in the preliminary stages of starting what they need to do for demo, and demo should be commencing in 2 to 3 weeks. And I'd also like to thank the DPW and water sewer employees who worked under very adverse conditions down that building for the last few years. And I'd like to say thank you to them. And the administrative staff for both Public Works and Water and Sewer. Don and I have the pleasure of working with them. They're a great group of employees. So we can move right into administration. Obviously, we talked about the DPW. A couple of the other things, we want to work closely with the Human Resources Department to try to increase training. That's been something that, has been lacking over the years in different things, and the health and safety of our employees and personnel, looking to work with them in a collaborative manner to address that. And we also are going to be putting GPS units in all the DPW vehicles for better tracking, control some costs and what have you. So we'll be looking to do that. In the administrative budget, the first thing is the personnel. We've already discussed the moving of Michael Kessman. The only other small change in personnel, last year we fully funded the business manager position out of DPW. That is now going to be cut 50% with DPW and 50% with water and sewer. So that's the only change there. As far as the line items in DPW administration, those have pretty much all been level funded. Slight reduction in computer operations. We've kind of streamlined our software. Was able to see a little savings there. We were able to cut that budget a little bit. So if anyone has any questions about the administrative end of it, I'd be happy to answer that.
Thank you very much, Paul. Are there any questions regarding administration? Yes, Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you. Paul, being specific in departments, what's happening with the sign department?
Well,
My favorite, of course.
the sign department. We'll be getting to that a little later if you want to hold your question, or I can answer that. That comes in the highway division.
Thank you. The only thing that stands out to me, we are not lacking experience with respect to administration. I'm looking at you and Elaine with a combined years of experience of close to 80.
Yes,
So, unbelievable. So, yeah. So, quite an accomplishment. Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to snow and ice.
Okay, snow and ice. That is pretty much, or it is level funded from last year. Not much change there. We have, over the last couple of years, instituted GPSs in all the contractor vehicles that we hire. It's served us well. We can see where everyone is right on our screen down the DPW. In case somebody gets accused of an accident or something, we can see who was on that street at that particular time. So that has improved things quite a bit. We do have 2 dump trucks that we ordered quite a while ago, well over a year ago, that are scheduled to come in late summer, early fall. Those are 2 snow fighters, all-wheel drive dump trucks that'll help us out in snow and ice. And I believe in the capital plan, we have a plan to buy another sidewalk machine. That's something we've tried to step up over the years, trying to address sidewalks more than we have in past years.
Thank you, Paul. Any
You're
questions
welcome.
regarding snow and ice? Councilor Novoselsky, then Councilor Visconti, Council President Visconti.
Paul, what's going on with the school department and our snow removal from those schools?
Snow removal at schools, we take care of the parking lots and the sidewalks around the schools. The custodial staff takes care of the interior sidewalks. So we work in conjunction with them.
Yeah, I heard they just they ordered a Bobcat for the Garfield.
Yeah, yes, they do. They have some equipment that they use, for their, smaller parking lots, sidewalks, entrance areas.
Now, is there any reimbursement from the school department or any kind of financial?
Well, I think Richard would be able to answer that.
Yeah, shared expenses are usually addressed with Schedule 19, which is the agreement between the schools and the city, and that goes for administrative, DPW costs, school nurses, et cetera. So the budget reflects that. If you look at the school budget, that Schedule 19 has the reimbursements for services that we provide.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Council President Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure seeing you up here. I just, if we can, if you can help explain again, in this department, it looks like we got bombarded with the snow, snow removal from the private contractors. Almost that amount almost doubled from last year. And then along with material, we were over as well by well over 100 and, give or take 110, 115,000. And then we have the budget item of back down to 200,000 and then 30,000 for the materials. How does that work again? If you can just explain that to us once again? I don't know if...
I can
it's
explain at least the level funding strategy, which is typical throughout the Commonwealth, because Mass General Law says that once you increase a budget in snow and ice, you can't decrease it, or else you will sacrifice some state aid. So most cities and towns leave that level because, if we did increase it, we would never be able to decrease it, and we're legally allowed to overspend that to address any snow emergencies. So it's kind of common practice to keep that budget low and then address the deficit in the following year's recap or through year-end transfers. So, it wouldn't be a bad policy to try to start eking that up, obviously, but it kind of just ties up dollars that could be done for something else. But it's more the ability to overspend that budget, and once you go up, you can never go back.
You can never
so
go back.
You tend to see that level.
Is that along with the materials as well?
It's just the snow and ice budget.
Just the snow, okay,
This
the whole
budget
thing.
actually, this budget had less categories. We actually tried to create a few more categories to itemize exactly what we're spending on snow and ice removals. We never had an overtime line, so we've had the same 350, but we try to apportion it out to have a little bit better controls on what we're spending it on.
Understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say that again?
I believe there was an increase in the cost of salt, in the materials itself, and the salt themselves.
Was it?
And we certainly weren't shy about laying it on the street.
No, which is, yes. No, understandable.
Any other councilors with respect to snow and ice? I just have one question. It's
Sure.
really nothing not pertaining to the budget necessarily, but how are we, in terms of getting contractors to plow for the city, are we getting, the amount that we need to service all of our neighborhoods? And I guess as a follow-up to that question, are the rates we're paying competitive with surrounding communities?
Yes, in fact, we did a little audit or a study prior to the snow season this year. We went around to approximately 6 cities and towns, and we did raise our rates rather significantly. Snow and ice contractors, typically, the last place they want to come is cities and towns. They want to do parking lots, they want to do apartment complexes. There's a lot of wear and tear on their vehicles, plowing for cities, hills,
More
hitting
liability.
manholes.
Yeah.
So yes, we sometimes, we struggle trying to find contractors. We get a list, they commit to us, especially the newer ones, and then when you call them during the storm, they found others. But we do have a very good core group of contractors that have been plowing with us for years, and they've stuck with us.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that, Paul. I appreciate it, and if there's no other questions, we'll move on to Ira's favorite part of the budget with the street signs in it, the Highway Division in Section 2, page 83.
So as far as the Highway Department and signs, we completed the installation of the ADA blue compliant street signs throughout the city. There are a couple of odd ones still left, but we're addressing those. We purchased a new city street sweeper to increase the frequency of street cleaning in conjunction with our contracted street sweeper. We have, I don't know if everyone's aware that the Community Development Office used to run the paving and sidewalk repairs out of their department. It comes out of DPW now. So we made a lot of headway in satisfying the 311 requests, and we've milled and resurfaced approximately 12,000 square feet of city streets in the last year. Some of the objectives, we have a new cartograph work order system that has a mapping function. So when, say, they go out to do potholes, they refer to this function, and it shows up all the potholes in one section, so they're not bouncing back and forth between sections of the city. We've started a crack sealing program. That's something the city really has never done in the past. So we've just completed the first 3 or 4 streets initially, and we're going to see how that goes. We're hoping we can, once we pave a street, after a few years, we can prolong the longevity of a particular street. So then we're also going to go through the city with a comprehensive sign program. Maybe you see some faded signs, broken signs, poles leaning over, signs on phone poles. We're going to try to address that as best we can. In the Highway and Sign Division, and to your question, Counselor, yes, we did have a retirement of a long-term employee just recently. We do have another experienced employee that's in there now that worked in the sign department years ago, and we have a younger, newer employee who we found is very good, especially with our sign-making machine, because it's very computer and software heavy, and he's very good at that. So there'll be no effect or decrease in services for the sign division. As far as the payroll goes, that's pretty much level funded. You do see a laborer position there that's unfilled. That's because of the retirement of an employee just a couple of weeks ago. The line items in the Public Works Highway are all level funded. We had a slight cut in the street signs because we have caught up with all our street sign replacements. So we're able to cut that a few dollars. Other than that, everything else is level funded.
Okay. Any questions pertaining to the Highway Department? Councilor Novoselsky? Yes, I wouldn't think otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, where is the sign department working out of now that the building is
The
gone?
McKinley School.
At the McKinley and down
They
there?
have been for over a year
In
now.
the basement?
They've, in the basement.
By the
They've
back
set up
door.
a shop down there, the sign-making machine, everything's down there.
Okay. Now, when are we gonna kind of finish up all the signage
Well, that's our goal this
this
year.
year?
To do that. There's, I know especially in your ward, we need to do some work on the street sweeping signs and whether resident parking is 24 hours or it's midnight to 6. I think we've decided to go mostly 24-hour.
Right.
So a few of those signs have to be changed and replaced. Same thing with the Beachmont area.
Yeah, because I know I've been putting a lot of work orders in because of National Grid taking poles down,
Right.
having
Signs
double
go with them.
poles, and
Right.
signs have been disappearing with that
Right.
old pole. So that's why I've been asking you
Yeah,
guys
so
to,
that's one thing that
to
Dawn
move
has
them over.
mentioned. Try to get as many signs off these phone poles as we can for that reason
Yeah.
and others.
so, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions pertaining to the Highway Division? Paul, I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You said that we have increased our street sweeping budget.
Well, no, the budget is level funded.
Okay, so you got a municipal street sweeper?
Sweeper, yes, correct.
I see, okay.
Yep.
And that came out of where, our capital improvement fund, or?
correct.
Okay. And, okay, so I think you answered my question about the labor. It looks like he has 123 years of service, which would put him at one of the
Yeah,
older
that-
employees
Whenever
in the
there's
city.
that seems to pop in there for some reason.
So, yeah, so.
It's
but
like a
that's-
default or something, I think.
Okay, just, yeah, no
Sounds
comp
like
claims with
me.
him yet?
Yeah.
That's
I
unbelievable.
think that's me.
And as far as, we've talked about this, at least, during the years that I've been up here. And I just happen to notice it because it happens to be at the end of my street. They did some utility work there back, I don't know, a year ago, within the last year, because they built a new duplex at the end of my street. And, they dig it up, and they do whatever underground work they need to do, whether it's water or sewer or electrical, or whatever it is they're doing. And then they do the patchwork. I mean, is there anything the city can implement in terms of ordinances? If people do this, it should be curb to curb when they do this work, because otherwise you guys are just gonna run out and it's gonna cost the city more and more money just constantly filling potholes, pothole here, pothole there, pothole. Isn't there something we can do?
Sure, there's certain things that we've developed over the past year or two. We put in a construction oversight position last year, and that person is very active chasing down these contractors and utilities to making sure that their trenches stay in good repair. So that's something that is being very aggressively taken care of, and we've had a lot of success over the last year with that. Another thing, when you say curb-to-curb paving, we have entered into a certain arrangement with the gas company, that when they come in and replace a main, they're obligated to pave from curb to center line. We ask them for the money that they were going to use to pave that. They give it to us, we add some of city money to it, and then we pave the whole street. This just happened recently up on Suffolk, Ridge, Tudor, and Homer. I believe National Grid gave us a $170,000 contribution. We added some city money to it, and we were able to pave the street curb to curb. So that's been a very successful arrangement we've had with National Grid, and there's quite a few other streets around the city that we've done that on, and we hope to continue that arrangement.
And I would imagine the city money is out of Chapter 90 funds, or?
Well, there's several
the
parts
community development.
of money. There's the bonded money that the council approved last year for $5 million. There's Chapter 90 money, and then also the community development block grant money that we use for paving streets also. So there's different pots of money.
Okay. And lastly, and you happen to, bring up National Grid, but I can think of other, public utilities that have their equipment around the city, and it just bothers me if there's, you see them all the time, either with graffiti on them, or they're just old and the paint is chipping. I mean, I know it seems minor, but, if you see these blighted pieces of equipment, I just don't think it looks good, I mean, there's been some pieces of outdoor equipment that, we've done some artwork on and things like that, which is fine as long as that's not vandalized. But, I don't know if there's something, that maybe we could, maybe going forward, have a discussion. Maybe the kids coming on for summer jobs, I don't know what the liability is to have them maybe paint some of these junction boxes or whatever, but, just to kind of make the city look a little nicer.
No, I agree positively. We could certainly look into that.
All right, well, if there's no other questions pertaining to highway, we can move on to open space and parks, which is on page 86.
Okay. Parks and open space, some of the things we're trying to do, especially with tree planting. Over the years, we've been very successful removing dead trees, trimming trees, but in the removal of these trees, it has left stumps and open tree pits. So this year we're being very aggressive in trying to go into a major tree planting program. And some of the money is coming out of the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant money, and we've already planted 50 trees this spring. So we're trying to go up and down every street in the city, see where there's stumps, see where there's open tree pits, and address that. And that's something we haven't done in the past, really, because we've been concentrating on removing the dead ones, trimming the ones we have. So that's something we're looking forward to this year. We're going to be planting probably another 150 by the end of the fall. So there's 3 programs. There's the Community Development Block Grant money. There's the DCR tree planting program. Those 2 programs kind of have constraints as to where you can spend the money in the city. As we get into the line items, you'll see there is an increase in our spraying and planting budget of $50,000. That is to fill in the areas of the city where these other 2 pots of money can't be spent. So that's something we're really looking forward to. And then we got a Green Community Initiative grant of $40,000. We're going to have an arborist come in and do a tree inventory. They're going to go down every street in the city, assess the health, the size, the species of every tree, if they're doing damage to the sidewalk. And so this will give us a comprehensive inventory of what's out there in the city. Then we can address these problems a little bit better. Obviously, we're working in conjunction with the Community Development Office. We reconstructed Sunny Myers Park last year. We're working on Ambrose Park this year. And that's about it. A few other things. As far as the line items, as far as personnel goes, that's pretty much level funded. Same amount of employees. Parks and open space, the increase in the spraying and planting that I previously mentioned. Other than that, we had a little increase in our field maintenance account, landscape contracts that expired and we had to go back out to bid for. Those came in a little bit higher naturally after 3 years. And another thing that I'm very happy about in the parks and open space, we're trying to bring back the senior citizen park maintenance program. During the pandemic, obviously, we couldn't use the seniors, and so that kind of fell out of the budget. So we are hoping to revitalize that program, get it back out there, and at least get a couple of seniors in every park cleaning up the day-to-day activities Monday through Friday.
Thank you very much, Paul. We're going to We're going to open it up to councilors, and we'll start off with Councilor Serino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, through you to Paul, I'm glad to hear that the senior program is coming back. A lot of seniors in my ward, I don't want to say depend on that, but it's a good, source of income for them
Right.
in the warmer months. And do you have somebody in mind to count the trees and determine the species? Because that sounds like a job made for Joanne McKenna,
Right.
if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, that, maybe she can assist there, but we will be going out to get requests for proposals. And like I say, that is all grant money, so it's not, no appropriated money. So that's going to be a great asset to us.
Thank you. Any other councilors? Council President Visconti.
On the open space part, it looks as though there was the contracted services, maybe I missed it, for 113,000. That was budgeted in 2022.
So
I don't see a
are you
quarter-
referring to the ROCA program?
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, because I
Right.
don't see I don't see a year-to-date expense on it, and wasn't sure if that was somewhere else.
Right, that was another program that ceased during COVID,
Oh, okay.
and we've,
Yeah, but that particular line was it was basically Roca just sent me a ton of bills that we owe them from, at the point that this was produced, they hadn't sent us any bills, so they
Yeah.
basically sent us their year worth of bills. So there's two programs within Roca. There's, for 8 months, they're out 3 days a week helping Parks and Open Space do projects throughout the city, and then the 4 months in the winter is when they assist with the snow removals through the Snow Angel program. But those bills were received late, and in that, those contracts we've renewed for 2023.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, as far as trees replacements, are they just driving in the streets and checking it? Because I put in many 311s on them, and I've been waiting for a long time to get some trees done,
as far as planting goes,
to replacing.
yes, so if there's empty tree pits, then we should have captured those, and that's going to be happening. The initial 50 were planted this spring. We're going to be working this summer preparing the pits, and then there'll be a very large planting this fall.
Yeah, because I know Campbell Ave, going down the bottom of the hill, we had a couple accidents down there to wreck some trees, and North Shore Road,
Right, so we did,
Walden Street.
right, we cross-referenced with the 311. We physically went out and drove up and down the streets. Now, did we miss some? I'm sure we did, cars parked, what have you. And between 311, if you want to send me a list, or any counselor wants to send me a list of some empty tree pits, that's fine. We want to capture them and see what we can do about replacing them.
Okay, and what, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what's going on with the line painting as far as crosswalks and?
That is going to be starting up. In fact, our first night is June 23rd. We'll be going out at night that night, and then there'll be a series, probably over the next 3 months, of repainting the crosswalks and the center lines.
Some of the streets that were repaved and
Yes.
don't have, and Shirley Ave specifically.
Right. Actually, there is a PO that was just cut out of the Works Grant, Mass Works Grant, thank you. And they were going to be coming in, I think, in the next couple of weeks to do Shirley Avenue.
Now, will those include the new streets that they're repaving down
Oh,
there?
positively.
Over the next couple of weeks, you go Walnut Ave and?
Yep. We'll be replacing
James Street.
those, yes.
Okay,
And
good.
another success story is we switched a few years ago from regular oil-based paint to epoxy paint,
Right, I
and
remember
it's
that.
lasting a lot
Lot
longer.
longer.
Yeah.
Now, who's supposed to be doing crosswalks along the side streets along the Parkway?
That would be Mass DOT. We usually go there. It's their responsibility, actually, but we do them.
Yeah, because I got two I want to give you.
Oh,
So
no
that
problem.
That they keep missing all the time.
We'll take care of them.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors have any questions for for Paul. You actually touched on it very, very briefly. I mean, talking about empty tree pits and the planting of trees there, but this, again, is just another thing that I seem to notice, and I don't know if there's a way to address it. I know everything comes down to manpower, but again, for aesthetics, the tree pits sometimes get extremely overgrown. Do you
Right.
have a plan to?
Well, that's one of the things we use ROCA for. So they do a lot of our empty lots. I know I just called the supervisor today and asked them to go along Broadway and Park Avenue for the tree pits. So it's tough to, there's a lot, and it's
I don't
tough
know
to
if you
keep
could
up
use
with.
weed killer, or, I'm not
we
just
do.
talking about like
There's
trash,
one-
but,
There's one member of our public works staff that's licensed to spray pesticides, and he goes out when he can,
Okay.
when conditions are right.
Okay, and then as far as the tree program, because I know there was a program, at least this was going back several years ago, through the Secretary of Environmental Affairs Office. I don't know if they still have any
Well, the DC
appropriations, is
Yes, the
that?
DCR, that's what
So the
you're referring-
DCR is actually the ones that are
Yes,
helping
they-
us? Okay,
So they're confined to certain areas of the city that they designate, so we're bound by that. But they also plant on public property and on private property. So that program should be getting kicked off in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to try to advertise that as much as we can. They'll come in your backyard and plant a tree for you, so it's a great program.
great, fantastic. All right, any other questions? All right, then, Paul, we appreciate it. We'll move along to page 89, Facilities and Public Property.
Okay, facilities and public property. One of the things in our facilities, we've been going kind of systematically through our public buildings, renovating them. We've been using the money left over, we call it the tornado money, we refer to it. After doing what we had to do with that money as far as roofs and what have you, and replacing what was damaged, there was a little money left over, so we've been using that to renovate different offices. In fact, City Council Chambers was done with that money, and as soon as the budget hearings are over on Thursday night, they'll be coming in here to put a new carpet, new chairs. So we still have some money left there, so we've been systematically doing that. Let's see. And we want to continue that program. We're just about finished across the way with putting in a new ADA accessible ramp for the American Legion Hall. And that's just about completed. We're signed a contract with a contractor to do over 2 sets of public stairs, Florence to Campbell and Brad Street to Winthrop. Of the public stairs, those are definitely in the worst condition. They're just about impassable. So we'll be starting with those 2, and that work should be commencing within a month. We're looking to explore the feasibility of entering into a energy-saving performance contract. We'll have somebody come in, assess the energy needs in all these buildings, and then suggest projects to us. We can fund those, and then the savings that's realized through these programs would pay for itself. So we're looking into see if that's feasible or not. I believe the school department did this a few years back and has had some success with it. As far as, just bear with me here. Let's see. Line items, the labor force, that pretty much has stayed the same. There is a couple of lines in there. We've started a program with the vocational school where we take a couple of kids and give them practical experience here. They go, the seniors, they go to school for a week and then come here for a week to get practical experience. You'll notice a senior maintenance line item here. Those seniors would be specific to helping out the custodial staff and what have you. As far as line items there in facilities, street lighting has stayed the same, public building heat has been cut a little bit. Public building lights. Maintenance of equipment has been level funded. Contracted services, that's for the cleaning crew. Rental and leases is for our land that we rent for our temporary facility, where I keep our trailers, and the garage space behind the city hall here that we rent. And I guess that's it. Any questions? I'll be happy to entertain them.
Council President Visconti.
You talk about ramps, some ramps being,
Right at the American Legion.
yeah, American Legion, and then there was a couple other ramps.
A couple of public stairs.
Okay, public stairs.
Yeah.
I remember myself, I think it was last year, and I'm not sure if another counselor, it might have been Joanne, may have put, along with, it was myself and you, or and Joanne McKenna, we put in a motion about trying to build a ramp for the senior center. And
So that,
that is, has that started, or, I know it was approved through the city council.
yes.
I'm trying to figure out if there's a time frame on when that can get started, or is there a time frame?
So there's two entrances and exits there.
Yes.
The front of the building, we have hired Weston and Sampson to do a feasibility study and about repairing that. That's been funded. They're coming in the next couple of weeks to start that process. And then there is a set of stairs in the back of the building that we are going to address with the same type of way we're addressing the front of it. We're going to go there, assess that. To install a ramp back there is a pretty large-scale project because of the height of the stairs.
Okay.
It's going to take, a lot of ramps to get up there.
Okay.
And there'll be a loss of a few parking spots. So we're going to go down, take a look at that, and try to come up with some sort of a plan to address that.
Okay. And if I can just end by saying, Paul, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We as councilors reach out to you because obviously residents, are calling us, and the response time is great. And I can't thank you enough for being so receptive, answering your phone and really helping out. I mean, we can take, for example, yesterday, somebody just walked into my office. I made the phone call, and you were right around the corner, and I got a call back saying, Jerry, thank you so much. They came in and removed it right away, and, so the job that you're doing is much appreciated. You're a valuable asset to that department, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Novoselsky and then Councilor Cogliano.
Thank you, Mr. President. Paul, speaking of buildings, we're going to bring the Legion back at you.
Okay.
As far as the broken windows from the broken windows from the.
Oh, yes, the broken window, we're going to,
From the tornado.
okay.
And also the leak that still is occurring at the two drain pipes. The north
I
and
wasn't
south
aware
end.
that we did send somebody up there with some tar, and I thought that was,
Yeah, I
I
don't
thought
know
that was
how
fixed.
long
That's
I don't
still
know.
happening?
As far as I know.
Okay,
It was coming down the side of the PVC pipes.
okay,
on-
All right,
On the south end and the north end.
okay. I was under the impression that that was repaired, but
Yeah.
I'll certainly
Check it out.
revisit and check that out.
Appreciate that.
Okay.
And, I know, I was working on that handicap ramp since Tommy Ambrosino was the mayor. Cindy Tatelman and I actually went up there with Frank Stringy to start that, and look how many years ago, and we finally got it done, and
Right.
thank everybody for taking that into consideration, and there's still a lot of work to do up there, and we know that, but
Yes.
we thank the city for what they're doing, so thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Councilor Cogliano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Argenzio, as a new city councilor who has a lot to learn, I just want to thank you for your guidance and your patience. And I also want to touch on the performance measures. the numbers I just put together, it looks like it's between 40 to 50 issues a day that you handle. Absolutely amazing. You, again, you're an asset to the community, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. And it's,
Thank you. Paul, I just have a few things.
sure.
I just heard Councilor Novoselsky talking about repairs needing to be made as a result of the tornado. That was in August of 2014. I can't believe that we still have some lagging stuff. And that's no reflection on you. I'm just saying, I don't know why, but in any case, hopefully a lot of that stuff's coming toward the tail end of that cleanup.
I believe that is, other than this window at the American Legion, but
Yeah.
we'll get right on that.
So maybe I missed it. Culvert cleaning, it used to be budgeted. I don't see a line item for
Yeah,
culvert cleaning.
that, years ago, that was in the DPW budget, and that's moved to water and sewer. That keeps popping up here,
Okay.
but that's in water and sewer.
Okay, that goes along with Michael Kessman.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right.
all right. All right, so that's culvert cleaning. I noticed a pretty significant reduction in the prison crews over the years. I mean, I'm not just saying from, but like
Right,
over
so-
the years, so why has that happened?
We've reassessed that program. When they did come, they helped us out quite a bit, but that program became unreliable. We would go weeks and they wouldn't come for one reason or another. I guess they were having staffing issues at the facility, and they didn't have a guard to send with them. They would come, maybe they'd work an hour or two, and then something would happen and they would have to leave. So we reassessed that program, and we felt that ROCA and the senior citizen program, along with the summer youth program that comes in July and August, those were a little bit better and more reliable.
Okay. Okay, and looking at the public building heat was level funded. I mean, you think that's doable, or?
Well, is it doable? We hope it is.
I mean, with the cost of fuel and energy?
Yes. Well, Richard, might be-
Yeah, like I explained previously, we level fund those with the hope that these exorbitant price increases will come down to reality, and if they don't, then we certainly may have to come before you and ask, but just don't like to tie up dollars on things that may drop down and at the risk of not funding something else. So it's I guess it's a calculated risk that we're taking, and being a utility and everyone's kind of aware that these prices have really been surging up, we hope that they get back to normal. So definitely a calculated risk, and hopefully we don't have to come back. We always try to take care of some of these problems within the budget before we come before the council, but yeah, just a little bit of a hedge on maybe some prices coming back down to what we expect in the past.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation. There's also a line item under contracted services for $75,000 for a cleaning company. Who is that? What buildings do they service?
That's complete cleaning. They do the city hall, library, recreation department, senior center, and ISD. School department and the police department use that same company, and they were very successful using them. And it kind of frees up our custodial staff. Our staff is very skilled, and they've been doing a lot of repairs themselves here, plastering, carpentry work. We found that it was much better to use them for that skilled labor rather than just the mundane washing floors and cleaning bathrooms and stuff.
Okay.
So that's...
And that answers that question, Paul. And then just one final question, and I know there's probably several moving parts on this, but, the McKinley School still falls under the jurisdiction of the city, correct? I mean,
yes.
and I don't know what kind of condition that building's in. I know for a long time, I'm not sure if it's still happening, but they were conducting canine exercises throughout the building, and,
Correct.
I mean, you know, at some point, it sounded to me when Dr. Kelly was here that there might be some usage within the school department, maybe other departments in the city. I mean, I've always thought we should salvage that building and keep it as a community asset, but I don't know what we're doing to maintain it, you know, as best we can.
We are maintaining it as best we can. We are utilizing it quite a bit for the DPW. One of the biggest problems with building a new facility is where do we go with all these different workshops that we have. So the sign department, the water and sewer department use it extensively to put their parts in. We store a lot of our rakes, brooms, shovels, small hand tools in there. It's become a repository for a lot of the records up here. That's being addressed. I believe we're trying to move to a digital system. But we are utilizing the building. We are maintaining it. We're keeping the heat going. And so there is a use for it. So I imagine in the future there's plans, but that's not.
Okay. And this, I guess, this wouldn't be directed toward you, maybe toward Rich, but we had actually, hadn't spent it obviously, but we had a bond that was approved, I think for $2 million, if my memory serves me correctly, to rehab that building and kind of bring it up to speed so it could be usable. Do you know if that bond, if that bond appropriation is still active, or that?
Well, it's active, but it's active in a different way. The DPW facility was bonded at $22.5 million, and when the bids came in at $25 million, the council had repurposed that authorization for the McKinley School for the completion of the DPW. And with that, there is, I know that Superintendent Kelly has earmarked, I believe, almost $7 million for the repurposing of the McKinley School, with the hope that it's going to be early childhood education center, which I don't believe will take up the entire building, but I know through planning and community development, they've had some feasibility studies on the use of that building. So there's some ongoing stuff with the McKinley that I'm sure will come before the council during fiscal year '23. So
Well, that's within the school department budget, right, the $7 million?
they're using, they earmark some of their ESSER funds, their ARPA funds on their side.
Okay.
So they've committed $7 million to the concept of potentially putting some early childhood classes in there to create some capacity at the elementary school, so.
But would that go to infrastructure also? It's not, that's not,
No, I think that's
salaries
no, that's
and-
an operational type of earmark, and, you know, I would certainly have Dr. Kelly give you a little more insight, but.
That's an
not-
operational earmark?
No,
So
it's
that-
not, it's not.
It's
an-
not an
yeah,
operational, okay.
It's for the capital improvements to
Oh, good,
hopefully
okay.
make that building repurposed for, at least partially, for early childhood care. And I know that there was just maybe 2-3 weeks ago, a MAPC and the school department put on something at the Hill School talking about some of the options with that space. So I believe the council will be hearing more about that during fiscal year '23.
Okay, great. Paul, thank you. I don't know if any other councilors have any questions. If not, I don't know, we have left here for tonight, water sewer enterprise and solid waste enterprise.
So I'll be speaking on the solid waste when.
Okay, well, while you're up there, do you want to speak
Sure.
on the solid waste
Yeah.
now? We'll just, I don't think Dawn minds if we take it a little out of order, so you don't have to sit down, come back. We'll kind of, that would be in section 4, pages 8 and 9, I believe.
So the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, some of the accomplishments, things we're striving here for. We recently, in the process of signing a new 3-year trash and recycling contract. And we've received $28,000 in grant money from the DEP for recycling purposes. We certainly have tried to increase our recycling outreach to all the citizens. We mailed out a comprehensive trash recycling yard waste guide, mailed to all the residents. And we ordered a new trash truck for this department to better keep our city barrels picked up and things of that nature. One of our goals, if you look in other cities and towns, you'll hear that they have hazardous waste days, things that are very tough for residents to get rid of. We just recently called around to several cities and towns. We have a couple of vendors that provide this service, so we'll be looking at that very aggressively, hopefully do something maybe midsummer. And that's about it. Now, so in the trash and recycling, it's unusual, we have some good news here. So the recycling that we've been struggling with, in years past, there was a point when recycling, we used to get some money back, or we used to get it picked up or get it disposed of for nothing. It would be a free service. But the bottom fell out of that market, and as recently as about a year and a half ago, we were paying $150 a ton to get rid of recycling, which was almost double what we were using to dispose of trash. So obviously that's completely turned around and not what we had hoped for. With signing the new contract, we have reduced that cost. We are now down to an average monthly cost of maybe $40 a ton now. So now it's much less than trash. We've saved a tremendous amount of money doing that. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that continues. Another thing that we did over the last several months, I've been talking with the Housing Authority about them contributing to covering the cost of their trash pickup. So after several meetings, they have decided that they're going to hire their own contractor and they're going to pick up their own properties. So that's a savings of $70,000 right off the collection, and estimated cost of about $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in disposal costs. So that was a big savings to us. And we purchased the barrels about 3 years ago, the carts that we distributed. We stretched those payments out over three fiscal years. We finished those payments last fiscal year, so that dropped out of this budget. So we've had a lot of bright spots here in trash and recycling. A couple things that are happening this fall. Mattresses can no longer be disposed of at Resco, so we're entering into some negotiations with Capital about picking that up for us. We have e-waste, TV sets, computer monitors that people would have to physically bring down the city yard themselves because we didn't have a pickup option for them. This month, Capital Waste, you can do it essentially like a bulky item. Someone will come to your house and pick up your TV now, and there's a cost to it, but just like a bulky item. So you no longer have to come down the city yard on a Saturday for that. And obviously now with the city yard under construction, we've lost our ability to service the public that one day a month. So this hazardous waste pickup that we want to enter into will become important to the residents. As far as the line items go, the personnel has pretty much stayed the same. No new positions. Again, as we get into the line items, you see a reduction in the rubbish removal, recycling disposal. We still have a pretty good figure there because we're hedging our bets here. We've had success with the recycling, but we just want to make sure that that continues. And again, that market is volatile. 1 month we'll be paying $20, $25 a ton. The next month it's $50, but then the following month it's $35. So there's still some volatility, but it's still very low, a lot lower than what it has been. Okay, any questions? And also, I believe with the consent of the City Council, Mr. Viscay will be presenting a revolving account for the new equipment. This way, as people purchase barrels, That will go into into the revolving account, and then we would buy new barrels, new recycling barrels out of it. So as people purchased, they'd go in there, and then we could take that right out of there.
Okay. Do any city councilors have any questions? Members of the committee or otherwise? Anyone have any questions? Well, that is good news.
It is.
You said you signed a contract with
With Capital
with
Waste.
Capital?
Yes.
For how many years?
3.
3? Is there an escalator in there or?
Yeah, there's a small, I think, 2.5%
Okay.
of these, yeah.
Um,
And,
Some additional services as well.
right.
And have you memorialized the agreement with housing in terms of them, or is this kind
Yes,
of a?
they took a vote while I was there, and as of July 1st, they are picking up their own trash.
Okay. And I just have, this is just and it's not, I don't know how rampant it is, but I do know of a couple of situations, only because I've got complaints from residents who have neighbors who have businesses, and they put out their business trash. And truthfully, I don't think that's fair for the residential taxpayers, that
Right.
pay for trash pickup, to go around and collecting people's business trash. So,
Correct.
what are we doing to try to offset that? Because, of
So-
course, that goes into tonnage and pickup costs
Sure.
and so on.
So, we don't pick up commercial trash. So that when.
But they disguise it as.
Oh, positively.
Yes.
So what we did, we instituted a tan commercial barrel cart program. So some of these small businesses, say a lawyer's office, that don't generate enough trash, they are able to purchase for $150 a commercial trash cart. And that cost is every year. So they kind of fell between the cracks because they can't have a dumpster or a private pickup for a business like that. That doesn't really make sense. So yes, there's an avenue for people like that. If somebody is throwing this trash out and disguising it, let us know. We have somebody on the road that investigates these things. ISD has been very aggressive with a ticketing program, and it has improved things vastly across the city with how people throw their trash out. And the rodent population, fingers crossed, has really been reduced. But to get back to the trash, we have an avenue for small businesses. We can service them at a cost. And if somebody is seeing something, let us know.
Yeah, Paul, just to, I guess for your own edification, like, I wasn't referring to like a lawyer's office
Right.
that has a bunch of papers putting them out. I'm talking about, it mainly seems to be contractors or people that have other types of business where they have large amounts of trash. And, they'll bring it, I know of one case where they're bringing their trash from East Boston, where their business is, and putting it out in front of their house. And I believe one of the neighbors has complained. I don't know where it's gone, but, you see occasionally, like, I'm not saying, that's why I prefaced everything by saying I don't think it's widespread.
Right.
But it's just a bone of contention that I have that, you have people out there that are already paying a lot of money,
Right.
between, and I don't have to go back and, between property taxes and
Right.
water and sewer and so on and so on. To have to put any money, I don't care how small the amount might be, toward picking up somebody's, maybe construction materials or whatever, I think is unfair to the rest of the residents.
It positively
in the
is.
city,
And between us and ISD, we're constantly on the lookout for that. We've ripped open trash bags trying to find addresses in there and what have you. So I know, in fact, Don spotted it last week. Somebody remodeled a bathroom and put it by a barrel in Gibson Park. There were toilets and sinks there and everything else. So it happens, and we try to catch them, so.
All right, just, while we have this forum, I wanted to mention it, so,
Okay.
But Paul, just echo the sentiments of a couple of the councilors that have already thrown some accolades your way. I don't, clearly, I've had the great opportunity to work with you for a long time. If anything, you've got more responsive over the years. That's not to say you weren't responsive early on, but it's just, you're always, and you don't have to respond to one city councilor. You got not just 11 city councilors, but you have a lot of other people that are nipping at your heels for things, and you always manage to get back. So I appreciate your dedication.
My pleasure.
Your loyalty to the city, and we appreciate your hard work.
Thank you for the kind comments.
You got it. Thank you. One remaining department, not insignificant, would be the water sewer enterprise. So that is on, in section 4, pages 1 through 7. Section 4, pages 1 through 7.
Good evening, Chairman. Good evening, Council President. Good evening, councilors. I'm Don Charmella, Chief of Engineering and Infrastructure for the City of Revere. And just to give everybody a little bit of background of what we do with the city, we have a major focus, like the rest of the country, on infrastructure. No different than the rest of the country. I think now that everybody's eyes are wide open to the fact that the country as a whole has neglected its infrastructure. So in 2018, when I was a water sewer superintendent, I think a lot of the problems with the city kind of were magnified with the fact that we had 61 inches of rainfall that year in 2018, when normal rainfall is between 37 and 42 inches of rain. So that year we were, inundated by a lot of street flooding because of the fact that the city of Revere basically only has drainage infrastructure in basically one third of the city, adequate drainage infrastructure. So a lot of our focus in 2018 was in drainage infrastructure, cleaning our 5 major ditches. Eastern County Ditch, which did get cleaned, permitting for Green Creek. We are presently in the design phase for cleaning Trafoni Brook, Town Line Brook, and two major projects on Malden Street and Sargent Street to divert stormwater drainage from both of those areas to a 4x8 culvert that was put underneath the expressway on Asti Ave in 1955. Also, these last couple of years, our focus has also been on the water distribution system, which we have 107 miles of water mains in our city. 107 miles of water mains, which over the last 10 years, we basically have just replaced about only 4 miles. This year, we're presently replacing 2 miles in 1 year. Our focus is to replace 3 to 5 miles a year. Unfortunately, $3 million a mile. But that's a reality. The reality is every day. This is what we look at. This is a sample of the water distribution system in our city, and not unlike other major cities in this country. This is a cast iron water main, and these are minerals that are in our drinking water, minerals that are good for us, minerals that help us, live. Iron, zinc, copper. These are the minerals that we need for us to live. It's not dirt. It's not anything else other than minerals that adhere to itself to the metal pipe like a magnet. But the problem with this is distributing water to neighborhoods that have grown since this pipe was put into the ground in 1932. So, effectively, since 1932, which was one of the biggest pushes of infrastructure in this country after the Great Depression, pipes, not only did they not get bigger, they actually got smaller. So as our city grew, our pipes got smaller. So what we're doing is we're trying to distribute So to this street, we were trying to distribute about 4 inches of water to the whole street, but collectively, we're probably not, we're distributing less than an inch to homes and for home water use and for firefighting capability. So our focus has been on the water distribution system the last couple of years. Like I said, 2018, with 61 inches of rain, a major focus on storm water, which we have many projects underway. Last couple of years, our water distribution system, our goal again is to replace, 3 to 5 miles a year. At the same time, we're also tasked with the chore of maintaining 4,500 catch basins in the city, 1,529 water line gates in the city that control our water system. I'm glad to report that we've pretty much laid our hands on all 860 hydrants in the last 3 years. We've got a report on basically every one. A lot have been repainted, and many have been replaced. We also have a contract out to replace many more this year. Every year we address, last year we addressed 16 of our own replacement, and this year we'll probably do about the same, and another 10 or 20 by contractors. But I'm happy to report that the hydrants have a really good bill of health, and we have a good understanding for the hydrants now. We're also tasked with the fact that, being a coastal community, we have 30 pump stations, 13 that handle our sanitary sewage, and 17 that handle our stormwater drainage system. Because we're a coastal community, water doesn't necessarily, or fluids don't necessarily roll downhill, we pump them out. So our 30 pump stations are maintained weekly by the Water and Sewer Department. Actually, these last couple of days, we were cleaning them as we do pretty much quarterly. We also have projects, drainage projects that we're doing. What we're trying to do is we're having a focus on, I think I've spoken of this before, that prior to paving a street, we address the utilities below the pavement so that we don't have to revisit it. And so we have asked National Grid to focus their attention on their cast iron gas mains that have been leaking for many years, leaking at the cost of the consumer, the natural gas consumer. That loss of gas through the gas pipes is basically tacked on to the rate that you pay. We understand that there's been a lot of disruption in the city, but it's one time that should be good for many decades. Removing the cast iron gas mains and replacing it with new high-tech plastic that is incapable of leaking or losing any of the natural gas that they're trying to distribute to the homes. After the gas is addressed, natural gas mains are addressed in the street, we focus our attention on the stormwater drainage in the street, and then lastly, we address the water distribution system. So, like I had said, presently we're working in a neighborhood off of North Shore Road, and off of Revere Street. We're replacing almost 10,000 lineal feet of water mains. Once those water mains are replaced, we'll revisit these same neighborhoods next year, either reclaim or mill and pave the street, and also install sidewalks, granite curb and sidewalks. A lot of the city we don't have sidewalks, we don't have curbing. The curbing is used not only to protect the pedestrian walking on the side of the street from cars veering into their direction, but it also channels water. And so a lot of the city doesn't, they don't have defined sidewalks. So our focus has been to go back to that street, mill and pave, install sidewalks and concrete sidewalks and granite curbing. So, I mean, it's basically, we're not a very large department, the water and sewer department, but we try to touch on many different disciplines. Water distribution, sanitary sewer, stormwater management, and there's a lot to it. And, but the more we replace, the less apt that we'll get 94 water breaks like we did last year. 16 water breaks is our record last year for 1 week, or a 1 week period. Over the Easter holiday, we had 9 water breaks in 4 days. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to replace these water mains so we don't have this emergency response. And also to be able to distribute enough water to households and for firefighting capability for neighborhoods, to deliver enough water, enough volume to the firefighters. So that's basically about it. I mean, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Well, thank you very much for that, Donnie. Any councilors have any questions pertaining to the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund? All right, Council President Visconti, go ahead.
Donnie, thank you for being here as well. And I know we got $30 million in ARPA money, and you would be pumped if we would just give it all to you so you can replace some of that work. I know that might sound boring for everybody else, and but and I don't know how realistic that actually would be. But I know the infrastructure has some problems, obviously, and one of the major concerns is, when you say the water pressure going to hydrants, with the amount of money, with the amount of fires that have gone on, that's obviously a big concern. So has there been any discussion with the administration to distribute more money to the to that cause? And like I said, I know you'd want the whole 30 million, so would other departments.
To put things in perspective, 30 million would really only cover 10 miles.
You're right.
Well, we have 107, of which 103 need to be replaced. So it's, to be frank, I asked for it all.
Donnie, I figured you did. How's that? But that's understandable.
Yeah, but there are other. So we're also trying to get MVP grants. We're trying to get grants. We certainly get a grant from MWRA every other year. So there's other monies out there that we're trying to get. But then there's bonded money. And bonded money is, one of those things. But, so you have, you're in a consent decree, the city of Revere is in a consent decree. And, oh, by the way, I'd like to report that we've only had, in the last almost 2 years now, we've had only one dry weather SSO. SSO, sanitary sewer overflow, is actually what got the city in this consent decree. So in the last well over 22 months, we haven't had any sanitary sewer overflows. So, that's to the city's credit of all the work that we've been doing. So the system now, which is almost 90% lined, our sewer lines, which are almost 90% lined now, now has the ability to handle the sanitary sewer flow that the city generates a lot better than it did years ago. So, But there's more work to be done. So it's, it's a balancing act. You've got to do a little bit of, a lot of sanitary sewer, because we've done a lot of sanitary sewer work in the last 11 years. But then in 2018, our focus was on stormwater management, because, the phone didn't stop ringing. Neighborhoods were inundated with stormwater flooding. Streets just couldn't handle it. As the city grew, in 1955, the city of Revere was farmland. A lot of it was farmland. We had produce farms off of Sergeant Street. We actually had livestock areas off of Sergeant Street. Many of the areas that were unpaved, where if it rained out, the water just absorbed into the ground. Now, it pretty much hits asphalt and it sheet flows. But, there's not enough stormwater infrastructure to accommodate all the stormwater. And then there's the argument of, climate change. But, hey, listen, in 2018, there was no argument. 61 inches of rain. The facts were the facts. It was, it's something that I've never seen before and never experienced before, and I hope we don't experience it anytime soon, because the streets just can't handle it. The pipes that were put in the ground, those drainage pipes, not only our water pipes undersized, but our drainage pipes are undersized. So it just can't handle the inflow. So, so there's, work to be done there. And then, obviously, water distribution system. So it's a balancing act. We have 3 disciplines that we try to, spend money and distribute it evenly. Sometimes our focus seems to be a little bit more in one discipline than another. If it's raining out, we're cleaning ditches. If we have 94 water breaks in a year, we're replacing water mains. So it's, but we're trying to ring all the bells. But we do the best we can with the funds that we have. I'll tell you, so, we've also, we have this, as Paul explained, our new building, and that's probably one of the last pieces. You guys given us the equipment. We have the equipment. We certainly have the manpower. There's no argument. Pretty soon we'll have a building in 13 or 14 months. We'll have there's no excuses. We have everything we need to do our job. The VACTA truck that the council so generously bonded for us, that VACTA truck saves us a tremendous amount of excavating and work. As you can see, our materials cost is cut in half by the fact that I don't have to buy so much processed gravel to put back in a hole after we excavate it after a water break, because no longer are we digging with a backhoe or an excavator. We're vacuum excavating, and these holes are small and they're tiny. So I don't have the spoils that I had before, and I certainly don't need to buy a lot of clean material to put back in that very, very small hole. So we've gotten very efficient. The new jet truck, the sewer jet truck that the council generously bonded for us, that's been put to good use. That's the reason why our sewer mains are now maintained well. We clean them. We clean miles a day. When the sewer supervisor goes out with his people, they're cleaning miles a day. And that's that equipment gave us the ability to maintain the sewers, and that's why we don't have these the fog problem, fats, oil, and grease like we did years ago, because we have the equipment. So we have the equipment, we have the manpower. Pretty soon we'll have the building. Everything's going to be right with the city of Revere, and it is now.
Thank you very much, Donnie. Any other councilors have any questions? No questions. I just have a couple, and you talked about the dry event SSO. We've only had one. I know we still have our share of wet water SSOs.
Wet water, yep.
And but I would imagine, do you have a way to track those?
Yes, we do. We track them very closely, yes.
And what's the trajectory like? Is it
Very,
getting less
well,
over
much
the
less,
years?
yes. So we used to have about 30 hotspots where we used to have wet weather SSOs. Now we have about 6 or 7. So, yes, I mean, we do have them. It's because of I&I, illegal infiltration still. It's so, again, you know, the numbers are the numbers. Every day, the city of Revere consumes 3 million gallons of water a day. But we were discharging 7 million gallons of water a day. Where'd the water come from? We're only buying 3 million gallons of water a day from MWRA, but we're discharging 7 million gallons to Deer Island. That number's dramatically reduced now. That's during a regular event. During a wet weather event, we were consuming the same 3 million gallons of water a day that we would on a day that it wasn't raining. Same 3 million gallons of water a day that you make your coffee, wash your clothes, take your showers. But in fact, during a rainy day, we were discharging 30 million gallons of water a day to Deer Island. And that's because people's downspouts were connected to the sanitary sewer system. People's sump pumps were connected to the sanitary sewer system. People were getting water in their basement, you know, and the place that that it was connected to was the sanitary sewer system. So those redirects now, so that number is dramatically reduced. So the numbers are the numbers. So we had about 30 locations about where wet weather SSOs occurred.
And you're down to
They're
7?
down to about 6, and that all depends on the type of storm. If it's a 10-year or 25-year storm. During regular rain events, we have 0.
Okay, thank you for that. So, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, a prime example is when we repaired that sewer line on Winthrop Ave that took a large portion of the city sewer 30 feet down, I think, into the ground.
Yeah.
But used to be a great place for McMacken Field to drain into. And once that was fixed, you know, it was great for the people that use the city sewer system, but for the people and the kids that use McMacken Field, unfortunately, that water had no place else to drain. So now we fixed one problem, but as a result of that, caused another, which, I mean, it really should have never been that way in the beginning. I mean, water shouldn't be, like you say, the $3 million of usage and $30 million in a wet weather event.
Gallons,
I mean,
yeah.
you know, yeah, what did I say? 30,
Gallons, yeah.
Gallons, you know, 30 million gallons going out. I mean, obviously, I mean, yeah, there could be some illegal sewer connections, but there's a lot of I&I that was not solved, and hopefully that's,
Our sewer system, which was just basically collectively 2-foot clay pipes attached to one another. Those were put in the ground in the late 1800s, turn of the century, early 1900s, and there was a big push in the 1930s, right after the Great Depression. But those pipes, after we lined them, I mean, you certainly can't use sewer pipes to convey groundwater. I mean, you know, you need drainage infrastructure. And like I had touched upon, the city of Revere only has 1/3 of the city only has adequate drainage. That wasn't a focus years ago because we had a lot of green space. We didn't have a lot of buildings. We didn't have a lot of pavement. You know, nowadays, people like patios in their backyard, so the yards are disappearing. You know, people have more cars, so their front yards are disappearing. So everything that gets paved, water doesn't have the ability to soak back into the ground, so it gets conveyed. And, you know, we don't have adequate drainage. We don't. It's not it's certainly a major problem when we have a lot of rain, but, you know, now our focus is in no SSOs, getting out of this consent decree, also water distribution, because, you know, we have to be able to deliver enough water to households and to the firefighters for firefighting capability. You know, one thing that keeps me up at night is the fact that, you know, flows. It's not pressure, it's volume. It's the amount of water that we can convey through the pipes. Our pressure isn't a problem. We have certain areas that have low pressure, but adequate pressure. The hilltops are usually those areas. Young's Hill is usually an area. Fennos Hill is usually an area. It's the area of higher elevation. But we certainly don't have, but we do have a problem with conveying enough volume to certain areas. There are certain areas that we're focused on that to me are not adequate and need to be addressed immediately. And that's where our bonded money is gonna be going.
So, Donnie, I just have, talking about bonded money, you know, as I look at the bonded debt, and maybe this question might be more for Rich than it is for you, or maybe for both of you, but under bonded debt, I look at FY19, it was $2.6 million. In FY23, it's doubled. It's up to 5.3 million. So I guess my question is that for keeping us in compliance with the consent decree, all the money that the city bonds each and every year to stay in compliance? And, you know, if you happen to know the answer, how much money the city has actually spent so far to be in compliance with the consent decree, and how much further we're gonna go, and how much money that the city is going to spend? I mean, at what point does that, I mean, if we're doubling in 3 years, you know, what's gonna happen 3 years from now? Is that number going to 10 million? Is that, you know, what can we anticipate?
Sure. When I first began here, a lot of the projects from the consent decree were constructed, and those bond authorizations were interest only. We were paying just the interest until those projects were done. Well, at one point, we had 8 different phases of that had to be permanently bonded, and that's where you're going to see that first initial spike that spiked up. But to answer your question, I think we're at over $100 million worth of bonded debt from the consent decree, and I can get those numbers for you Thursday when we talk a little bit more about water and sewer rates. But as you see in the capital plan, there was $13.2 million authorized for continuance of the consent decree order, and we also have another $6 million contemplated for water main replacements, and as Donnie said, that's about 2 miles. We're leveraging that with some ARPA funds at $1 million and some MWRA money. So to answer your question, what's the future? I guess the future is the more repairs we do without having free money given to us through grants or bonds, then that debt should certainly increase. To what point it ends, the SSO and consent decree, it'd be great to get that out from under us where we can kind of maintain our sewer systems without these regulatory things which cost you lawyers' fees, which cost you consultant fees, engineering fees. But I think the shift now is moving towards the water main replacement, which has been deferred for years. So it's kind of like once we end with the sewer stuff, the water stuff seems to pull right back in, and what's that delicate balance of how much work we're going to do versus how much the ratepayers can actually afford to do that. So we're trying to come up with some stabilization of rates to try to dictate what types of projects we can do to keep that water and sewer rate in check. But there's not a whole lot of good news with the deferred maintenance and costs of these pipes and pumps and such.
Yeah, I mean, that's the worry. I mean, because, you know, every year, I mean, you had said that if not for $3 million of ARPA funds, then the rates would have gone up for water sewer ratepayers by what, 17% as opposed to?
Yeah, exactly.
6 or something? Is that what it went up?
Well,
Or that's what you?
We're contemplating 4.25, but even that number is
But
you know,
if those
that's
ARPA funds aren't there next year, what are the ratepayers going to be paying? You know, and so those are the things that, I don't think there's one city councilor, I mean, we're not up here, you know, grandstanding about water sewer. It's a reality. We know we've got to fix it, not just because of the consent decree, but because we have to. Nobody wants sewer in their basements, and everybody wants clean drinking water, so we know that. But we have to weigh that against how much can people afford, too. You know, when we make a decision up here, when we vote the budget, you know, this has ramifications, as I said before in these meetings, to people who pay these bills. You know, we all, I mean, like, and I respect the job that everybody does. You know, you guys come up, you work hard every day, you need resources to do your jobs, but it's our job to look at it and say, how much, because, you know, this at the end of the day is going to be paid by somebody. If there's all kinds of grant monies coming in, like MWRA, ARPA funds, wherever the money's coming from, that's great. We get it from the state and federal government, fantastic. But the portion that has to come from the ratepayers, we just have to at some point be able, you know, we kind of all glaze over here. The other night, I think our last meeting, we allocated the funding that we needed, you know, for CDM Smith, You know, we had John up here testifying, you know, $12 million, yes, 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 yes. You know, at some point, when does it come to a point, and I'm sure for a lot of people it probably already has with the way things are right now with gasoline and inflation and everything else, you get people on fixed incomes, you know, now their water bill goes up 8, 10, 12%. That's a big hit for them.
So we're on an MWRA system. Their rate goes up to us every year. And so it's.
Understood.
So,
Understood.
you know, we just can't stay static with their rate because unfortunately, we have work to do. You know, I can't, and I refuse to sleep knowing that I've got this much water going through a pipe. I can't sleep because if Chief Bright calls me up and says, hey, we don't have enough water, what am I to do? What am I to do with this pipe? How am I gonna fix this? There's no lever I can pull that's gonna convey more water through this pipe, not magically. You know, so the only thing I can do is push and insist that we focus on the water distribution system along with the sewer system, which we're close to almost completing. But then we have the stormwater system, stormwater management system. So, I mean, you know, push me, pull me, but,
I
you know,
understand where you're, Johnny, listen, I mean, you know, we all want the same thing you want. You think anybody wants, on this city council, wants a fire engine to show up, hook onto a fire hydrant,
No.
and not be able to get adequate fire pressure? That's not
No.
what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that to get a handle, when you start seeing numbers like that double in a 3-year period, I mean, you know, like I said before, what we want and what we can afford, I think you have to come into some sort of balance, because, you know, like I said, this isn't, I mean, I understand that you want to, you know, you care about your job and you don't want to go to bed knowing that there's pipes that are clogged, but, you know, there's people out there right now that don't know how they're going to keep their lights on right now. So they're concerned also. They have major concerns.
like I said,
So,
it's
you
a
know, we
balancing
have to
act.
balance that.
I
We
get
have
it.
to help balance that.
I get
So,
it, but I also have to keep the neighborhood safe, and I
True.
have to give the firefighters the tools to be able to control and keep a fire contained and not run rampant through a neighborhood.
yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Because then, you know, they're gonna be pointing the finger, well, you knew, you didn't, well, and I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep pushing.
Mr. Chairman, a question just to maybe Rich. I know John was up here from CDM, and what I forgot to, is it CDM, if I'm not mistaken? From listening to him, it looks like he's pushing it out another 10, 15 years. So is there an idea of what that is going to cost? Or has anybody done the numbers of the cost of pushing it out that far?
I mean, we have a capital plan within the budget that shows a 5-year forecast on expected expenses with regard to capital projects, which basically help us comply with the consent decree. On top of that, we're bound by MWR assessments. We get our water and our sewage from them. Just to put it in perspective, the water and sewer budget without the capital costs and without the MWR assessment is down 6.6%. Donnie has some pretty good equipment, he has some vehicles, he has good manpower. We're able to keep that stable. Unfortunately, most of this budget is driven by fixed costs. So the conundrum is, and listen to Councilor Rizzo, it's if we do nothing, we'll be doomed eventually. If we do what we need, we're gonna have skyrocketing water and sewer rates. So that delicate balance is what the philosophy was. We're trying to set a 3-year rate coming up here to kind of really take a good hard look at it. We have to go before the courts, the federal courts, I believe in December 2022, and we're going to be bound by whatever decision they make. I think if we can get out of the consent decree, we lose a lot of the the administrative costs and the legal fees and everything of just complying and flooding them with papers and documents and everything else, but we'll have to see how that goes, and I think CDM would be the best people to answer what that strategy is. But in the meantime, if we have 107 miles of water pipes and only 6 miles have been replaced in the last 40 years, I mean, what's reasonable? Is it 3 miles a year? Is it 6? Is it 10? That's a great question. I don't have the answers. I rely on Donnie. I rely on, we kind of fix things when they break, but, there certainly has to be some plan on what we do with these water pipes, and the deferred maintenance is really what's choking us right now.
Well,
We're not unlike any other city in a town in the Commonwealth or the country. It was in Nahat, it just approved 18 million for soil work this year. And, per capita, I think that's, a pretty big number for that small little town. So, I don't know the real circumstances, but I know it was only for sewer. But, like I said, it's a balancing act. I want to do a little here and there, but I also want to do a lot of water because, that's the one thing, that I know that will help me sleep at night. I know that's the one thing that I can do for the firefighters, to give them all the tools. I don't want to hear that a firefighter doesn't have the ability to throttle enough water from a hydrant to get onto a fire.
Donnie, just one last question, and then we'll wrap up, because I know we're coming up at the end of the meeting anyway, but talking about drinking water, you see people by the case getting bottled water,
Yeah.
right? I mean, is there any reason why people shouldn't
No.
be drinking our drinking water?
No, not at all. Good, great. We get water quality reports monthly. I can get them basically weekly from the MWRA. We have great drinking water. There's no reason why that anybody needs to buy water. Honestly, I think it's just the mindset. Sometimes you hear it in the news that some cities and towns have a problem, and, they're trying to do the best. The one thing that, the kind of the misnomer is that you certainly shouldn't be drinking distilled water. Distilled water, if you drink it, you will perish. It will deplete all your body of all its minerals. You need these minerals to sustain life. You need you need iron. This is how we take it in. We take it in with food, we take it in with water. But, no, our water is great quality. It's MWRA water. And if anybody wanted, the water reports are published on the MWRA website, but they send us to them monthly. But they're certainly for the public, if they would request them. But no, good point. There is no need to buy bottled water. Good point.
Well, that's one advantage, I guess, being in the MWRA district, is the fact that we have clean drinking water, and so people that are going out spending money every month on bottled water, really, it's unnecessary, correct?
Yeah. It's a preference. I mean, if it helps that person, sleep at night, that they think that they're getting a good quality water. But just like the water companies that sell the spring water, they have water reports. So it would kind of behoove the consumer to find out where their water is coming from, because some of the marketing, some of it's really not spring water, and also spring water, there can be spring water that's not good quality. So, it's buyer beware, but, you can start at MWA water. It's great drinking water. Our reports are sent to the water billing office monthly. We keep them on file. They're for the public, and they put them on, the MWA publishes them online. But,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, Donnie, thank you for that explanation. Paul, thank you again for being here and giving the counselors that are here and the people that may be watching a detailed explanation of what's going on in the city. This is a good exercise, not just to get through our budget process, but actually as we're going through the work that's being done in the various departments. It's great for the people to understand what's actually going on. So at the end of the day, when we approve the budget and the tax bills come out, and, you know, at least people, at least those, you know, people that may be watching and, you know, they know where their money is going and how it's being spent. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the councilors that are here. Thank you again for attending. Our City Clerk Ashley Melnick, thank you. Rich Fiskay, thank you very much. We have another meeting tomorrow before our wrap-up meeting on Thursday. So if there's no other business, we'll adjourn right now, and we'll reconvene tomorrow at 5 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.